FIGU passive member, and I am pleased to meet you, dear FIGU friends. Today for this Arizona meeting is a 2-month-long, over 49 hours of effort from a collective of the 4 of us in the Health Resource Group who have been meeting every Tuesday since June 2022, reading all of the contact reports of Billy Meier, sometimes twice, and importing them into a database with keywords. In Contact Report 680, the plastics are detailed as a health problem. And so to heal from this, you will learn of the detox supplementations by Ptaah and receive a handout of what to get. So now let's get started. Particulates matter, detoxifying plastics and metal with 6 supplements, based on Contact Report 680, 718, and 792. Table of contents, microplastics, heavy metals and nutrients for detoxing, Ptaah's Nutritional Guide for Detoxing, health resource articles, and bonus, the moringa tree. Microplastics. Contact Report 680 of May 7, 2017, Ptaah states that over 40 million tons of plastics end up in the world's ocean each year, which increases the more the population increases. The plastic nanoparticles in the world's oceans and all inland waters are in themselves extremely harmful to human beings and all living things, but it is even worse because they attract and bind various poisons like magnets, making them time bombs for all living things, which then absorb these particles through food into the body. The danger of these plastic nanoparticles saturated with poison is that once they have been ingested through food, they are not excreted from the body, but absorbed and integrated by it, causing chronic suffering, disease, and above all, cancer. From Transition News, who confronted the Swiss federal government of the environment, they found that the entire planet is contaminated from the tops of the mountains to the deepest oceans. They found that the decomposition of plastics, which are not completely degraded in the environment due to their stability, break down into smaller and smaller particles. If they're smaller than 5 millimeters, they are referred to as microplastics. Ptaah has just mentioned them as nanoparticles. They get into all living beings, plants, animals, humans. According to a study by the University of Victoria, they ingest around 200,000 microplastics through water and food every year. And at the University of Newcastle in Australia, an average of around 2,000 particles per week are absorbed through nutrition alone. That equates to about 5 grams of plastic, which corresponds to the weight of a credit card. In any case, the smaller the particles, the easier they are distributed. They've already been detected in the feces of infants and adults, in human blood, and in human organs. At the end of 2021, South Korean scientists found evidence that microplastics can penetrate the human blood-brain barrier. And finally, the most important, they have observed changes in cell morphology, immune response, and cell death. In the prior slide, Ptaah mentioned cancers. Thus, all aquatic and terrestrial organisms that serve as food for human beings are also contaminated by these tiny and minute plastic particles impregnated with various toxins, according to which when a human being eats meat as well as fish or other aquatic organisms, it automatically absorbs the food contaminated with toxins and plastic nanoparticles, and then the whole thing contaminates the entire organism. And this whole thing is very bad and dangerous for health because such poison-pregnant plastic nanoparticles, some of which are already much smaller than a nanosize, respectively a billionth, and have been reamed up to the attosize, respectively a trillionth, are spread in the atmosphere and thus in the air we breathe and are inhaled by all breathable creatures, only to settle in the organism in a way that causes suffering and disease. Science magazine had an article estimating that from the lands into the ocean, there were 4.8 to 12.7 million tons entering the ocean. However, the Plajaran's estimate is that there are about 123 million tons of plastic nanoparticles in the world's oceans alone, to which the tonnages of the inland waters have not yet been counted. That's a factor of 12.7 million tons versus 123 million tons of microplastics. The wet tonnage estimate on the right of this diagram is the summation of all the components of this map. Comes to 1,010,500 tons of wet plastic bags. Ptaah says, according to our analyses, the amount of plastic fragments in atto groups is already amounts to several thousand tons. Billy says, if the organism is contaminated with heavy toxic metals such as heavy metals, mercury, palladium, cadmium, lead, and nickel, then in addition to the immune system, the liver, kidneys, and intestines are also particularly affected. The microplastics are in the water and in the ocean, littering, rain, storm drains, entanglements, boats. Plastic is the worst, Ptaah says, amongst the synthetic materials. These tiniest plastics are inhaled by human beings and cause damage to health. These plastics can come from household items, which end up in sewage plants that clean the water, but not even enough to get the fine particles out, that also end up in streams and rivers and washed out into the seas and oceans. And now a little about metals. The EPA has identified 1,416 hazardous waste sites as the most serious in the nation. Now, I want you to think of this summer when you're driving up and down I-95 or on the West Coast, and you start to smell the odors from these toxic waste sites. That would tell you instantly there's nanoparticles in that wind. So I'm encouraging all FIGU members to wear masks of N95 or greater quality in the summer when driving by urbanized areas, or use your air conditioning, and don't forget to change the air filter in your automobile and try to get a high quality HEPA filter for your auto. Another note is that plasticized construction materials are linked to heavy toxicity in the environment. That basically means anything that goes into a dumpster from a demolition of a house or building ends up, and a lot of that is caulk from all of the materials that are stuck together. Ptaah's nutritional guide for detoxing. 6 items: silicon, which removes aluminum; chlorella algae for heavy metals, such as dioxin formaldehyde, which is from the Ohio burn of a month ago; and insect repellents. It's good for removing dental amalgams of mercury, and also removes lead, cadmium, and uranium. Glutathione removes toxins and aluminum. Sodium bentonite removes heavy metals and is synergistic with chlorella. Selenium detoxifies organs, removes heavy metals and mercury, and just 2 Brazil nuts a day will satisfy that daily requirement. Zeolite removes various pollutants, heavy metals, and other toxins. Do not buy artificially made zeolite, only natural. Silicon. The mineral silicon, he says, is useful for eliminating aluminum and also from being reabsorbed and stored in the organism or brain, and can reduce or prevent the harmful effect on memory. Food sources are raisins, bananas, carrots, lettuce. The recommended daily amount is to have 80 milligrams per day in the colloidal form. Heavy metals and nutrients for detoxing. Silicon. Now, the aluminum enters the organism along with heavy metals. Although aluminum itself is not a heavy metal, it still can cause health problems because, for example, it'll have a negative effect on memory. So aluminum is also harmful to the organism, so it must be eliminated, which is difficult but not impossible with the substance. The mineral silicon is useful for this purpose because it also prevents aluminum from being reabsorbed and stored in the organism or even in the brain, and can also reduce or even prevent the harmful effect on memory. For ingestion, silicon is particularly good and effective in an organic colloidal form, whereby the daily dose should be about 80 milligrams. Heavy metals and nutrients for detoxing. In terms of cooking of food, please use safe choices such as glass pots, usually from Corning, Korean clay or ceramic pots, making sure the clay or ceramic does not contain lead, bamboo steamers, real stainless steel cookware, and wooden spoons. Unsafe choices are aluminum, iron, fake stainless steel, copper, and plastic utensils. Chlorella is an algae with a high chlorophyll content. It helps detoxify heavy metals from the organism, increases your oxygen content. It's really capable of removing heavy metals and other environmental toxins such as dioxin and formaldehyde. I like to comment here, when you hear dioxin, think Ohio. That cloud of dioxin and formaldehyde has spread over the Ohio Valley and into the soil. Why do we need chlorella? It's useful for the elimination of toxins, and the recommended daily amount is 80 grams of chlorella per day, which leads to a 5-fold elimination of lead, cadmium, and uranium. Don't forget it's synergistic with bentonite clay, and that it positively influences the detoxifying effect. Heavy metals and nutrients for detoxing. Another means of detoxifying the body from aluminum and other toxins is glutathione. It's equivalent to the tripeptide that the body produces in sufficient quantities under normal conditions. However, without that, the cells disintegrate from unhindered oxidation, leaving the body with little or no resistance to the acids and toxins produced by the metabolism. The effectiveness of glutathione is based on its ability to bind heavy metals and toxins and form a water-soluble complex, which is then excreted by urination. Ptaah says, however, if the burden on the organism becomes too great due to stored heavy metals and other toxins, then the body's own glutathione is not sufficient, which means that glutathione must be supplied to the organism by external administration as a supplement. Sodium bentonite. Sodium bentonite is a clay mineral which is formed by weathering from volcanic ash. It's used for eliminating heavy metals from the body. This is unusual but cool. It has a large negatively charged surface area, giving this material an unusually high absorption capacity for harmful substances and absorbs them in the organism. Bentonite binds toxins from the digestive system so they cannot be stored in the body. This clay mineral absorbs toxic substances before they can enter the bloodstream. The excretory organs of the body, such as liver and kidneys, are supported in their own detoxification activities with bentonite. It's synergistic with chlorella. Selenium, important trace element and antioxidant. It has the ability to remove heavy metals such as mercury from the body and has an organ detoxifying effect. All you need to know is to eat 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day, or some sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. It's only needed in small amounts and must be taken in a controlled manner. It's toxic in high doses. Zeolites are natural hydrated aluminum silicates with exceptionally high absorption of various pollutants. They also have a large internal surface area due to numerous pores and channels, and it has a hollow structure, which is the reason for their exceptionally high absorption capacity of various pollutants, as well as heavy metals and other toxic substances. Please take the natural zeolites. Bonus material from Quetzal on moringa. This diverse tree provides food for humans and animals, and the nutrients are extremely rich in vitamin C and calcium. Please refer to FIGU-Ratgeber 1 for more information. This shows the nutrient chart for moringa. 4 times more fiber than oats, 14 times more calcium than milk, 4 times more potassium than bananas, 19 times more iron than spinach, 2 times more vitamin A than carrots. This is from Wikipedia. Earth science collaboration. We now have evidence of a new disease that we have to assume we are containing in our bodies. It's called plasticosis. From the Journal of Hazardous Materials, they found that there's plastics in the birds of the sea. The pathology or death of the birds was caused by plastic, not natural items such as pumice. Enlargement of that slide shows the plastic load breaking apart the organ examination by microscope. The most important statement here says, this highlights the unique pathological properties of plastics and raises concerns for other species impacted by plastic ingestion. Plasticosis, we're sick, so supplement with the 6 supplements of Ptaah. And finally, from the Guardian online newspaper are 8 strong headlines. Microplastics found in human breast milk, deep in lungs of people, deep underground in UK waters, could be linked to inflammatory bowel disease, causing damage to human cells, discoverable in human organs, blowing ashore in sea breezes, and the worms are failing to thrive in soils containing microplastics. This is the end of the slideshow. Please ask Ken and Nell for detailed explanations of what you've just heard. Thank you very much, and Salome to you all.